Kundaka Nikaya, the Minor Discourses, Theragāthā, Verses of the Arahant Bhikkhus, Vīsatinipāta, the Book of the 20's. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Theragāthā 20.1 Adhimutta Thera, Verses of the Venerable Adhimutta. His second. Of all those whom we've encountered and slit their throats, whether to offer as sacrifice or steal whatever they had on them or owned, every single one of them was terrified before they were met with our sharp knives. All trembled and squealed like pigs before getting slaughtered. But you, on the other hand, don't seem to be scared at all, not even one bit. In fact, it's fair to say you're even calmer than us standing here, who are about to kill you where you sit. So why don't you scream, lament, or beg for mercy, as all the others did, when the most horrible fate is waiting for you, a desperate predicament from which there's no escape, where you're about to meet with the sharp edges of our swords? O gang leader, there's not a hint of suffering left in the mind for me to experience. For the one who possesses not a single longing or hope left in his heart shrugs all fears, leaving them all behind in the dust, now that they've all been transcended and overcome, with all the fetters fully destroyed and undone. When the very passageway to rebecoming is cut off completely, and reality is seen for what it truly is, then there's no more worry or fear left in my heart, which is why it feels much like putting down a heavy load I've been carrying around with me for a very long time. The holy life has now been fully practiced and lived by me, and the path has been cultivated and developed to its fullness. So, you won't find any terrors or fears of dying to reside in me, just like a man who's fully recovered and freed from a terrible disease has no more concerns to fret over or grieve. The holy life has now been fully practiced and lived by me, and developed myself through the path by cultivating it in me to its fullest, as I now see how rebirth in any realm, along with whatever superlative experiences they may provide, are utterly tasteless, lacking anything for me to possibly long for or even want to enjoy, which, on being seen for the poison they really are, I have spit them all out with disgust by flinging them to the side the moment they made contact with my lips. For the one who has crossed over no longer reaches out to touch or grab anything. This because he's the one who's completed the task that should be done. Thus, by liberating himself from all the asavas and their contaminating leakage, I am delighted to see the end of life fast approaching, which is why it feels as if I'm pardoned and therefore released from ever heading again to the executioner's guillotine. By attaining and therefore personally tasting the ultimate which the Dhamma provides, there's nothing left for this entire existence to offer or entice me with, in much the same way as a person who runs out to safety from the ravaging fires of a burning house no longer has to grieve or worry about the flames any more to ever catch up with or scorch him to death ever again. All that has come to pass, and wherever life may come to arise, there's never been a so-called Supreme Overlord or Creator God, nor could such a situation ever come to be, where somehow life manifests or is put in place by such a being to rule over it somehow, be it in this or in any other place. This is truth that the mighty sage himself declared. So whoever has the understanding and wisdom to comprehend that which was taught by the Buddha won't be leaning into yet another birth. Because to be doing so or to go looking forward to yet a new life is tantamount to rushing to grab hold of a red-hot iron ball that's been heated all day and all night. It does not occur to me I was this or that, nor does it occur to me I will become this or that. And what do get destroyed are none other than merely the habitual bodily, verbal, and mental drives, and nothing else. So what is there for me to lament or grieve over, really? To one who sees as it truly is, their conditional arising of pure causal relatedness of all Dhammas, by seeing how things in their various sequences come to be, there isn't, nor could there ever be any fear. This I now declare to you, O leader of these gang mercenaries. So, when one sees clearly with wisdom this world as being no different than a heap of grass and loose twigs piled up into a mound, not finding in it anything that's worth grabbing or holding on to as mine, one does not find a reason to grieve any more, you see. For he understands realistically, while exclaiming in utter relief, "Oh, look at all this! None of this could ever truly belong to me, nor to anyone, really. This unreliable traitor of body sickens me, don't you see? So when I'm already disgusted by this one, while still here, why would I then want to go on looking for another, to exist in a future life somewhere? Do you now see? For this reason, when this body is dead and broken into pieces, there won't be another waiting for me anywhere. Therefore, go ahead and do whatever it is you want with this body, for it's already nothing more than a corpse to me. So no hard feelings at all from me, as I won't be getting angry at any one of you here. Nor would you be tearing me apart from anything I hold dear or cherish anyhow, for truly there is nothing left for me here to hang on to." On hearing these unexpected and hair-raising statements from the Venerable, those young mercenary gang members who had surrounded him, who originally had planned to cut him into pieces, suddenly found themselves pulling back, while lowering down their sharp swords, being thus astonished with what they saw. They began exclaiming, "What is this that you have practiced to enable you to be so unshakable in composure and unperturbed in your words, venerable sir? Who is it whom you consider your teacher? Whose instructions have you followed that led you to achieve and reach such an immovable state that is utterly absent of sorrow or grief?" The all-knowing one, the matchless teacher, the all-seeing conqueror himself is my teacher indeed. He is the incomparable guide and master, from whose all-encompassing heart great compassion flows ceaselessly. He truly is the great healer and physician for the entire existence. It was through him and his efforts alone that this life-giving Dhamma was preached in this world. The Dhamma that once practiced wholeheartedly and cultivated diligently most certainly takes one straight to the elimination of all suffering. Therefore, it was by following his instructions that I attained to Nibbana Supreme, which I also achieved by reaching such an immovable state that is utterly absent of any sorrow or grief. Then, on hearing the Venerable's sweet replies about the great sage, those young members of the marauding gang of mercenaries began throwing away their weapons and swords. Some of them completely had a change of heart by no more engaging in unlawful actions, while some, being so moved by what they observed, chose to entirely change their lives by walking away from lay life entirely. And thus they went forth from home life into homelessness. Later, once having gone forth in the dispensation of the Fortunate One, those dedicated, intelligent beings strove diligently, as they cultivated the 7 factors of awakening, along with tasting their powers, and soon enough they too became accomplished, with serenely contented hearts. And with faculties thus purified, soon enough those venerable ones too attained to the unconditioned state that is Nibbana Supreme. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Adhimutta. Theragāthā 20.2 Pārāpariya Thera. Verses of the Venerable Pārāpariya, his second. As the Bhikkhu Pārāpariya sat all alone, secluded in meditation, suddenly the thought arose in the mind of the recluse. What could be that formula or system that a practitioner must adhere to and perform, by following which he would truly accomplish what must be done, but without doing anyone any harm? The sense faculties people possess have the potential to do either harm or good, depending on whether they are well restrained or not. For if they are not restrained, they surely bring about evil. But they will truly protect one indeed, bringing about the welfare of both oneself and others, if kept well guarded and restrained. Therefore, by guarding my own faculties well, I would indeed be protecting myself. Hence, by taking charge and keeping my sense faculties all in check, I will be doing what must be done for myself by myself, while I'll also protect and do no harm unto others. If you let the eyes continue to wander among various sights they want to see, then, because of your refusal to restrain your eyes, soon you'll drag yourself back into suffering, not realizing the real danger in letting them go moving about unchecked. If you let the ears continue to wander among various sounds they want to hear, then, because of your refusal to restrain your ears, soon you'll drag yourself back into suffering, not realizing the real danger in letting them go moving about unchecked. Thus, by not seeing how you still have the chance to simply step out and walk away unscathed, instead, you let yourself be pulled into the fragrances you love to smell, as you indulge in them and drag yourself back again into suffering, due to a sense of smell that was never kept restrained. Horrified and pulled away from the bitter, while reminiscing the sweet and relishing the sour, captivated by how their flavors felt against the tongue, craving for more, yet again you're dragged back into pain, because you fail to see the impact your desire for flavors has on the heart. Remembering how lovely textures felt when they touched your skin, waking up passions for making contact with them again, or the lovely physical sensations that trigger desire and delight, soon transport and drop you back into an ocean of pain yet again, all because you could not restrain your sense of touch nor keep it in check. But even worse is the mind when left unguarded, with thoughts flowing in uninterruptedly. And that's where it all begins, and from where it soon spreads all the pain and suffering from the rest of the five, as sorrow dominates and protection is lost for both oneself and others. Living in this bag of blood and pus, that's more than a body, but serves as a cemetery, as a matter of fact, where in it constantly are found so many dead corpses, all floating about, even though it all looks impressive and intricate in so many ways, as if it's all put together meticulously by some expert hands. But the fact remains that it's no more than a well-painted casket and not much else. Too blind to notice how the things you consider to be sweet are in fact bitter, really, like the connections made with those you consider dear, only ending up causing you pain. Hence, you still don't get it, how it is no different than dipping a sharp razor blade in sweet honey and rubbing your tongue against it, while you keep sliding it up and down. Having lust for a woman, whether through the sight of her or through her voice, you become obsessed while letting yourself get intoxicated by the second. thinking about how she feels to the touch, or how she tastes, or the way she smells. As a result, you drag yourself back into the sticky swamp, where you'll find nothing else other than more suffering for you to bear. The 5 streams that pour out from a woman trap a man in all his 5, who gets intoxicated hopelessly by each and every one. It is only the courageous man, therefore, with the power to restrain himself by dodging each and every one of those streams through the strength of his wits and true valor, living his life with a purpose and a clearly defined goal, while strictly adhering to the Dhamma proper, clear-sighted and wise throughout his conduct. He abides without any remorse, as he enjoys doing the things he must, staying vigilant and alert in whatever lifestyle or discipline in life he pursues, avoiding all vain pursuits, along with those that are doomed to fail, and any kind of useless engagement where he perceives its benefits to be short-lived at best, calling out all such things as, "This I cannot do." Thus, doing only those things that are connected to and rooted in the Dhamma, which bring along with them true delight and ease of heart, must one commit to doing and practice too, for such things indeed do produce for one the highest pleasure and joy. Meanwhile, others seek out ways to grab what's not for them to take, in whatever way unlawful they can, be it through stealing, cheating, striking, and even killing, plundering from others what's not rightfully theirs, afflicting pain and grief upon others with their violence that knows no measure. Yet, the one who is truly sagacious and skillful in life is like the expert carpenter, who, on noticing a nail stuck in a piece of wood, by using another equally sharp nail, hammers it out with his strength. In the same way, while using his restraint over his own 5 faculties, he overcomes the faculties by cleverly putting them into use. And while cultivating the depth of faith and trust in his heart, along with his mustering up of energy to keep himself going undeterred, with mindfulness, collectedness of mind, and wisdom all functioning together, such a Brahmin will successfully demolish and remove the 5 by means of the 5, and walk on unscathed and trouble-free, being truly at peace, staying vigilant and alert in whatever he does in this manner, by living up to the standard of the Dhamma, doing what is wholesome in every respect, while carrying out exactly and fully the instructions received and all that was taught to him by the Buddha. This person here and now continues to grow, prospering in happiness each and every day. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Pārāpariya. Theragāthā 20.3 Telakāni Thera. Verses of the Venerable Telakāni. Too bad. So much valuable time I wasted, spending it on futile attempts in trying to figure out the Dhamma. Albeit so eagerly I pushed myself with such zeal, but no peace was my heart able to attain, despite my fervency, not even while going from recluse to Brahmin, I could see. As I kept asking one ascetic after another, who might be that one being who's truly crossed over and gone beyond? Who is it who's attained to true freedom, and thus gone beyond death itself? Who teaches that Dhamma, by accepting and following which I too will come to know and understand directly, and thereby also reach the highest goal? I was thus much like a fish that's caught on a hook, having swallowed the bait, captured and tormented thus, no different than Vepachitti, the Asura lord, who once was caught in Mahinda's sticky net. So, wherever I went, I dragged it behind me, never freed from the unending sorrow and crying pain, my inseparably ever-present ball and chain. Oh, who is it that could really set me free, to release me from those shackles by showing me the way to experience full awakening? Who is that Brahmin or recluse who can point out the way for the destruction of all that's unreliable and all that is so fickle, whereby, on hearing and learning the Dhamma he instructs, birth and death altogether will both be swept away and gone, once and for all? Bound up by doubt and uncertainty, while forcefully tied to resentment and pride, where the hatred and calloused anger inside already stiffened the mind itself, with the constant lacerations from the arrows of longing, rushing after this or that, all shot by the bow that is craving itself, with its never-ending lust for more, cutting me wide open, neck down to my torso, carving out my rib cage along with its 2 sets of 15, thus tearing up my once strong heart in 2, letting it sink while drowning under its unforgiving pressure. Too stubborn to give up those views and opinions I staunchly held, all speculative at best, supported by assumptions, presumptions, and empty hopes, and with blind emotional momentum as I try to keep them afloat, all having pierced deep into me and turned me into a flimsy feather, quivering and frail at the mercy of the blowing winds. But the source to be found lies nowhere else but within, having arisen inside of me, for it ravages on, quickly spreading as it scorches and burns this body and all that it contacts with its 6 senses again and again, all serving as its sustenance, this blazing fire within. As I suffer, I still cannot find him, that skilled surgeon, with his healing hands, to cut me open with his sharp scalpel and pluck out that poisonous dart of uncertainty from deep within. Who is that teacher who can help me, whether using a sharp knife, a scalpel, or none at all. Who could skillfully draw out that terrible dart stuck inside without harming the body in any way? Now, such a teacher truly would certainly be the chief, and the Dhamma he teaches, the very best indeed. For it is the only one that can heal, the antidote that counteracts and removes the very poison spreading within. He alone is the one whose saving hand reaches out to me, I, who've been drowning in the deep end, as he directs me to the shallows and to the safety of solid land. I've fallen into the deep, having trapped myself in the sticky mud that's covered up in all kinds of filth, with deceit, jealousy, and pride, in a never-ending state of procrastination, stuck in my sleepy inertia. Restless is the thunderous cloud of fetters I carry with me wherever I go, with thoughts of lust and impulsive drives ceaselessly storming down on me from every direction, toppling and dragging me over to a skeptic's doom. Everywhere is being flooded, while parasitic creepers keep spreading uncontrollably, invading and dominating as they do with their life-depriving clench. Who's the one who can help cut them all down at their roots and stop the flow of all these streams that leak into me? My dear, build for yourself that sturdy dam, blocking thus any and all streams from ever flooding or pouring in. In this way, you'll stop those mind-generated floodwaters in their tracks, and never let them shake you up or tear you down like a tree stripped from its roots ever again. I was in such a mess, so full of fear, seeking a way to get to the farther shore from the one I was on, when I came across the teacher, wielding the sword of wisdom, surrounded by the noble sangha of sages as he sat. So, despite the mighty floodwaters I had to tackle, the Sugata extended to me the robust ladder to climb out of them, braided out of the very heartwood of the Dhamma itself, as he called out encouragingly to me, "You have nothing to fear." Thus, by climbing up to the citadel tower of the Satipatthana, I was able to turn and see those below, the rest of beings all delighting and lost in their empty and doomed pursuit of seeking the substantial, just like I'd done for so long in the past, following blindly my own obsessions. But the moment I saw the path, by stepping onto the solid deck of the ship, I was finally able to gaze upon the farther shore, with certainty unmatched in the presence of wisdom, freed from the clutches of the deluded perpetuation of a substantial self. The poisonous arrow does not land in us from outside, for it truly originates in the deluded heart. However, it's the one that shoots outward nevertheless, blindly going out in quest for yet another becoming, but putting a definitive end to all that mess is what this supreme path has truly taught me to achieve. Too long I had struggled, while trapped in their suffocating coils. For way too long I was lost in the shackles of delighting and all its kin. But it was the Buddha who came and cut off that knot for me, exposing and removing from me the very poison that lay deeply hidden within. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Telakāni. Theragāthā 20.4 Raṭṭhapāla Thera. Verses of the Venerable Raṭṭhapāla. Behold this fathom-long body, all decked, standing upright. Yet it is nothing but a collection of abscesses and sores, always subject to disease and sickness, a bundle of unending concerns and worries, always facing the reality of unavoidable and ceaseless instability. Look at the comely form you try to decorate by putting on shiny jewelry and your golden earrings, when all the while you secretly try to hide the skeleton underneath, adorning yourselves with attractive and seductive clothes, painting your feet with red henna, while smearing your faces with all kinds of powders and creams. All that may be effective to sell yourselves to deluded fools, but not to those who go on searching for what lies beyond on the farther shore. Weaving your hair into 8 separate braids, smeared with eyeliners, mascaras, and different shades to seduce with the eyes. All that may be effective to sell yourselves to deluded fools, but not to those who go on searching for what lies beyond on the farther shore. Despite all these ornaments you wear, trying to make it seem like a decorated box of fine ointments, this rotting body of filth nevertheless continues to decay. All that may be effective to sell yourselves to deluded fools, but not to those who go on searching for what lies beyond on the farther shore. The hunter set up his noose to catch his prey, but the deer, despite having eaten the bait, neither set off the trap nor was caught in its snare. And now I leave, leaving the hunter who tried to trap me behind, weeping in disarray. The trap, carefully placed by the hunter, is now broken and all torn asunder. For the cautious deer, outsmarting the trapper, did not set off his net's trigger, despite having eaten the bait. And now I depart, leaving the hunter who tried to trap me behind, weeping, wailing, and all confused. I see people in the world, rich, wealthy, and lost in their abundance. But being blinded by their greed, they refuse to give anything, living so attached to what they have amassed, unwilling to share or part ways with their possessions, following their ravenous appetite for more riches. They look for more ways to indulge themselves in sense pleasures. Meanwhile, they continue to hoard all they could grab and steal from others. The ruler who conquers by force, occupying and ruling over a vast territory, is still not content, despite having an empire spanning from sea to sea. Full of longing for more, he looks for ways to still expand his domain, eyeing those realms which are beyond his reach, coveting more territories no matter the means. But it is not just the common folk or regular people that will die, for death is also the lot of rulers and kings, who, sooner or later, we'll all go to join the caravan of the unsatiated, the faithful prisoners of unsatisfied craving that continues beating in their hearts. Yet they leave all their bodies behind, with which they had done so much, in their blind dedication and service to the flesh, blindly following their quest for more pleasurable stimulations which could never be fulfilled. Meanwhile, families and relatives come to wail with disheveled hair, seeing them rolled up and wrapped in a single cloth, and now being carried away on their one-way trip to be placed on some firewood, to be burned all the way to the bone, while others stand there in shock, lamenting in grief, as they realize the bitter truth. Those who are now dead, despite what they believed, were not immortal after all, indeed. Leaving all assets and all that was acquired behind in the unreachable abyss, straight to the funeral pyre one goes, while covered up with nothing but shrouds. The dead, lying flat on their back, have no more possessions or stations of power left for them to seize, with no loved ones either, relatives, companionships to become one's refuge, or friends to find shelter in, no matter how desperately they seek. The heirs, those left behind in the meantime, come and carry away his wealth, which has now become their loot. As he goes, however, being pulled away, never to see or enjoy them again. After all, the dead will always travel alone, unable to take with them anything, not their wives, children, kingdom, or name, except, of course, the weight of all that they have done. Long life can never be gained through the wealth one may possess, nor can he pay his way to get rid of decay or eliminate old age. Meanwhile, the wise teach again and again how this life we live is indeed very short, for it truly is impermanent, never eternal, but ever changing. The truth of this is felt and touched by both rich and poor, where the wise and the fool all feel it too. But while the fool gets pulled into it by his idiocy, drowning in its woes, no wise sage, however, feels agitated or trembles at the sight of death. True wealth, therefore, is found not in acquiring things, but in gaining wisdom, which is the only way one can taste true freedom. Yet, due to their persistence in remaining ignorant, so many refuse to pursue the path, and instead keep moving and loitering around, while committing evil in this life, then doing the same in the next. But the one who re-enters the womb is led by delusion, floating in samsara and moving from one world to another, identifying with each one of those existences as his very own heritage. Meanwhile, other fools lacking in wisdom, who gullibly take his words to be true, also fall into the trap just like him, and go from womb to womb, caught in the snare of perpetual samsara. Much like the robber, who is caught red-handed, must face the consequences for his wrongful actions, so must all those who, while alive, though might somehow manage to get away from facing what they have done and paying for their evil deeds, they will surely be made to suffer, and dearly so, for all they have intentionally committed. Thus, the evildoer is destroyed by his very own actions in the next world, if not in this one too. Sensuality is vivid, enticing, and pleasant. Always comes disguised to win over the heart, disturbing it. O great king, seeing the many dangers of sensuality, I went forth. Just like fruits on a tree, humans too fall, every single one. When the body breaks down and death arrives, taking with it both the young and the old. Seeing this too, I went forth, O king, seeing clearly the choice to become a recluse as the best of all. With unbeatable faith and trust in my heart, I went forth, as I joined the dispensation of the vanquisher, not taking anything for granted. Thus, my going from home life into homelessness has not been a waste, but fruitful indeed, for I truly live blamelessly, partaking of the food that's offered to me. As sharp blades made out of gold, and all placed at your throat, sensual pleasures serve no other purpose, really, other than to throw you back into the throngs of more sorrow, as they drag you relentlessly from womb to womb, suffering unimaginable pain in the worst of hells in between. So, on realizing the horrific reality of this impending danger, I was filled with an overwhelming sense of urgency, pierced with the arrow of restless agitation to get it done once and for all, when suddenly it came, the fourfold victory, as I too attained what had not yet been attained, by realizing the destruction of the asavas that had contaminated the heart for countless eons. I have faithfully attended on and personally served the great teacher, and now truly completed the task, according to the Blessed One's dispensation. I have finally put down the heavy burden which I carried, and now the path to further rebirth is utterly destroyed for me, for I pulled out and destroyed the very roots of re-becoming. The main reason for which I went forth is now fulfilled, because I have attained to that goal supreme that first led me from home life into homelessness. Finally, I have truly obliterated all the fetters that bind. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Raṭṭhapāla. Theragāthā 20.5 Māluṅkyaputta Thera, verses of the Venerable Māluṅkyaputta, his second. While having a confused mind that is in turmoil, Whatever form or shape one sees, one grabs onto, holding on to its pleasant features and details. Thus, one is overwhelmed with thoughts of desire and lust, while latching on tightly to it, long after the moment having first laid eyes on it. Meanwhile, countless feelings overrun the mind from within, having originated from that one visible form seen by the eye, where the mind becomes lost in chaos, torn between lusting after the delightful and disgusted by the repulsive. Thus, one only ends up accumulating more suffering, as he remains far from ever experiencing Nibbana. While having a confused mind that is in turmoil, whatever sound one hears, one grabs onto, holding on to its pleasant features and details. Thus, one is overwhelmed with thoughts of desire and lust, while latching on tightly to it, long after the moment having first heard it. Meanwhile, countless feelings overrun the mind from within, having originated from that one audible sound heard by the ear, where the mind becomes lost in chaos, torn between lusting after the delightful and disgusted by the repulsive. Thus, one only ends up accumulating more suffering, as he remains far from ever experiencing Nibbana. While having a confused mind that is in turmoil, whatever fragrance one smells, one grabs onto, holding on to its pleasant features and details. Thus, one is overwhelmed with thoughts of desire and lust, while latching on tightly to it, long after the moment having first smelled it. Meanwhile, countless feelings overrun the mind from within, having originated from that one fragrance smelled by the nose, where the mind becomes lost in chaos, torn between lusting after the delightful and disgusted by the repulsive. Thus, one only ends up accumulating more suffering, as he remains far from ever experiencing Nibbana. While having a confused mind that is in turmoil, whatever flavor one tastes, one grabs onto it, holding on to its pleasant features and details. Thus, one is overwhelmed with thoughts of desire and lust, while latching on tightly to it long after the moment having first tasted it. Meanwhile, countless feelings overrun the mind from within, having originated from that one flavor tasted by the tongue, where the mind becomes lost in chaos, torn between lusting after the delightful and disgusted by the repulsive. Thus, one only ends up accumulating more suffering, as he remains far from ever experiencing Nibbana. While having a confused mind that is in turmoil, whatever tactile object one touches, one grabs onto, holding on to its pleasant features and details. Thus, one is overwhelmed with thoughts of desire and lust, while latching on tightly to it long after the moment having first touched it. Meanwhile, countless feelings overrun the mind from within, having originated from that one tactile object touched by the body, where the mind becomes lost in chaos, torn between lusting after the delightful and disgusted by the repulsive. Thus, one only ends up accumulating more suffering, as he remains far from ever experiencing Nibbana. while having a confused mind that is in turmoil. Whatever thought or concept one knows or experiences, one grabs onto, holding on to its pleasant features and details. Thus, one is overwhelmed with thoughts of desire and lust, while latching on tightly to it, long after the moment having first thought of it. Meanwhile, countless feelings overrun the mind from within, having originated from that one concept experienced by the mind, where the mind becomes lost in chaos, torn between lusting after the delightful and disgusted by the repulsive. Thus, one only ends up accumulating more suffering, as he remains far from ever experiencing Nibbana. But when standing mindfully in the present moment, whatever form or shape that is seen, one no longer lusts after nor is repelled by it. Instead, one experiences it with dispassion, no longer a victim to be tightly glued to it, nor latched on to the visual object being seen. In this way, living mindfully, even in the midst of seeing a form, one sees and knows what feelings are generated because of it, but while observing it as it is, both the object and its feeling together wear away, never piling up, never accumulating in the mind. Thus, in the presence of diligent mindfulness, suffering is exhausted, not added. And for the person who dismantles suffering in this manner, one is said to already be in the presence of Nibbana Supreme. When standing mindfully in the present moment, whatever sound that is heard, one no longer lusts after nor is repelled by it. Instead, one experiences it with dispassion, no longer a victim to be tightly glued to it, nor latched onto the audible sound being heard. In this way, living mindfully, even in the midst of hearing a sound, one sees and knows what feelings are generated because of it, but while observing it as it is, both the object and its feeling together wear away, never piling up, never accumulating in the mind. Thus, in the presence of diligent mindfulness, suffering is exhausted, not added. And for the person who dismantles suffering in this manner, one is said to already be in the presence of Nibbana Supreme. When standing mindfully in the present moment, whatever fragrance or odor that is smelled, one no longer lusts after nor is repelled by it. Instead, one experiences it with dispassion, no longer a victim to be tightly glued to it, nor latched onto the odor being smelled. In this way, living mindfully even in the midst of smelling an odor, one sees and knows what feelings are generated because of it, but while observing it as it is, both the object and its feeling together wear away, never piling up, never accumulating in the mind. Thus, in the presence of diligent mindfulness, suffering is exhausted, not added. And for the person who dismantles suffering in this manner, one is said to already be in the presence of Nibbana Supreme. When standing mindfully in the present moment, whatever flavor that is tasted, one no longer lusts after nor is repelled by it. Instead, one experiences it with dispassion, no longer a victim to be tightly glued to it, nor latched on to the flavor being tasted. In this way, living mindfully even in the midst of tasting a flavor, one sees and knows what feelings are generated because of it. But while observing it as it is, both the object and its feeling together wear away, never piling up, never accumulating in the mind. Thus, in the presence of diligent mindfulness, suffering is exhausted, not added. And for the person who dismantles suffering in this manner, one is said to already be in the presence of Nibbana Supreme. When standing mindfully in the present moment, whatever tactile object or surface that is touched or sensed, one no longer lusts after nor is repelled by it. Instead, one experiences it with dispassion, no longer a victim to be tightly glued to it, nor latched on to the surface being touched. In this way, living mindfully even in the midst of touching a tactile object or surface, one sees and knows what feelings are generated because of it. But while observing it as it is, both the object and its feeling together wear away, never piling up, never accumulating in the mind. Thus, in the presence of diligent mindfulness, suffering is exhausted, not added. And for the person who dismantles suffering in this manner, one is said to already be in the presence of Nibbana Supreme. When standing mindfully in the present moment, whatever thought or concept that is known and experienced, one no longer lusts after, nor is repelled by it. Instead, one experiences it with dispassion, no longer a victim to be tightly glued to it, nor latched on to the thought being cognized. In this way, living mindfully, even in the midst of experiencing a thought or concept, one sees and knows what feelings are generated because of it. But while observing it as it is, both the object and its feeling together wear away, never piling up, never accumulating in the mind. Thus, in the presence of diligent mindfulness, suffering is exhausted, not added. And for the person who dismantles suffering in this manner, one is said to already be in the presence of Nibbana Supreme. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Māluṅkyaputta. Theragāthā 20.6 Sela Thera. Verses of the Venerable Sela. O Blessed One, having the most perfect of features, truly you are handsome, possessing such lovely and excellent features, for which you are so beautiful to behold. With your golden-hued skin, so vibrantly full of energy and alive you are, with your brilliantly white teeth. Being well-born, with your glowing skin and perfect body, truly you possess, indeed, all of the marks that a great man is supposed to have, all of which I see now with my own eyes, so evidently displayed as I gaze upon you. Your eyes are so clear and bright, and such a beautiful and perfect mouth, a straight and majestic body and strong presence, sitting splendidly as you are in the middle of the Sangha of recluses, you shine brilliantly like the sun. For a bhikkhu to have skin that glistens like gold is so wonderful to behold. But when one possesses the most excellent of features and such a handsome appearance, why would anyone give up everything and become a recluse? You should become a universal wheel-turning monarch, the chief among the best of charioteers, conquering and dominating the four quarters, the supreme lord of India, the land of Jambudvipa. You ought to have powerful kings as your faithful subjects, along with all other Kshatriya warriors, kings and their princes, all following your supreme rule as your loyal subordinates. O Gautama, you should be the king among all kings, winning and ruling over all mankind. Then the Blessed One said to me, I am the King Sela, the incomparable and supreme King of Dhamma. With my teaching I set forth the wheel of the Dhamma rolling, which can never be stopped nor be rolled back. Then I spoke these words to the teacher. You declare yourself as fully self-awakened, the incomparable and supreme King of Dhamma. With my teaching, you say, I set forth the wheel of the Dhamma rolling. All these you state, O Gautama. If you are the king, then who is your close disciple, your true general, the grand marshal of the Dhamma you set rolling, the one who closely follows in your footsteps, who would keep the wheel of the Dhamma continued in its rolling after you? The Blessed One then replied to me by saying, Sela, this incomparable wheel of the Dhamma, which I have set rolling, is kept in motion by my disciple Sariputta, who continues its momentum after the Tathagata. Whatever should be realized, I have realized. What should be cultivated and developed, I have cultivated and developed. What should be relinquished and eliminated, I have relinquished and eliminated. Therefore, Brahman, I am the Buddha. So, just let go of your doubts and perplexity, O Brahman, and simply trust. After all, it is so difficult to have this opportunity. Indeed, to look upon a living Buddha and be in his presence. I am the Buddha. That which is so rare to occur in existence has finally taken place. The unsurpassable surgeon has appeared in the world. Having become the Holy One, I have destroyed and crushed the armies of Mara. I have vanquished and silenced all enemies, and now I live happily, secure, and with no fear in my heart from any quarter. Then, turning to my 300 faithful students, I exclaimed, Pay close attention now, good sirs, and listen carefully to what is spoken by the one possessing the eye of wisdom, the surgeon, the great hero, who roars like a mighty lion in the jungle. Behold the Holy One himself, the one who has destroyed the armies of Mara. How could anyone who lays eyes on him still have any doubts? How could anyone not immediately be inspired with intense faith, even if one were to be a lowborn with a dark heart? Now, those among you who wish to continue, you may follow me, and those of you who do not, you are free to go. I have finally found my true teacher, a Buddha in the flesh, here and now. I go forth in his presence, in the very dispensation of the one possessing the eye of wisdom. Then my 300 young Brahmin students turned to me, their teacher Sela, and spoke. If you, sir, being pleased as you are and moved so deeply by the dispensation of the fully self-awakened one, to even decide to go forth yourself, then we also will go forth alongside you in his presence, in the very dispensation of the one possessing the eye of wisdom. And by addressing my matchless teacher, the Blessed One, I spoke. O Blessed One, I, along with these 300 young Brahmin students of mine, with our hands at our hearts in respectful Anjali, now ask for your permission to go forth in your presence, so that we may lead the holy life. Sela, the holy life is well proclaimed indeed. It truly is to be seen and lived by oneself here and now, for it is immediately effective and not to be postponed or delayed. The truth of this is experienced personally by all those who meaningfully go forth and thus train wholeheartedly with diligent effort. It was a week later when I approached the teacher again with my 300 students and said, "It has been 8 days since we all came to you and took you as our refuge, O blessed Lord. For 7 days we have trained and become tamed in your dispensation. You are the Buddha. You are the teacher, the sage who has vanquished and overcome Mara. You are the one who, by having himself completely cut off all the underlying tendencies and crossed over, you have helped us all to cross over too. All things that people cherish and hold on to, you have dodged altogether. And by shattering and tearing into pieces the contaminants that defile the heart, you grasp at nothing any more. With no fear whatsoever, no dread left in you, you are indeed the lion. And now, here, in your presence, these 300 bhikkhus have come, with their pressed hands in Anjali over their hearts, full of tearful gratitude. O great hero, kindly stretch out your feet, and let these Nagas pay homage by bowing at their teacher's feet." These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Sela. Theragāthā 20.7 Kāḷigodhāputta Bhaddiya Thera. Verses of the Venerable Kāḷigodhāputta Bhaddiya. Delicately pampered in every way was I, riding on the best of elephants in royal regalia, dressed in the finest and softest of clothing, eating the most delectable of rice and curries, prepared with the most exquisite of delicious meats. All this was my daily routine. Yet, drenched in such luxury, I was neither happy nor at peace, unlike today, where I finally feel happy for the first time ever, so utterly fortunate you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist, even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food collected from my alms round. I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Adorned by the tossed away rags which are now my clothes, so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist, even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food collected from my alms round. I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Surviving on food I collect during my alms to keep this body alive, so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist, even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food collected from my alms round. I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Now, with only 3 sets of robes for me to wear, so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist, even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food collected from my alms round. I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. With no preferences, I go on begging from house to house, skipping none. So utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist, even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food collected from my alms round. I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Secluded, as I sit down alone to eat my single daily meal, so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist, even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food collected from my alms round. I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Eating only what's been placed inside my bowl and nothing else, so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist, even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food collected from my alms round. I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Never eating anything else once the appropriate time for meals is over, so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist, even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food collected from my alms round. I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Dwelling in the remote wilderness, secluded and without companions, so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist, even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food collected from my alms round. I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Dwelling at the foot of a tree, sitting and practicing all alone, so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist. Even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food, collected from my alms round, I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. With no shelter to cover me, I live in the open air. So utterly happy and fortunate indeed is how you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist. Even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food, collected from my alms round, I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Spending my time practicing fervently in cremation grounds, so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist. Even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food, collected from my alms round, as I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Contented while accepting whatever seat is offered to me in assemblies, so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist. Even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food, collected from my alms round, I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Never lying down, but continuing to sit despite exhaustion, yet so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist. Even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food, collected from my alms round, I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Satisfied and contented, so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist. Even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food, collected from my alms round, I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Detached and removed from the crowds, yet so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist. Even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food, collected from my alms round, I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Not seeking after companionships, yet so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist. Even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food, collected from my alms round, I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Always mustering up more perseverance with unremitting energy, yet so utterly happy and fortunate indeed you'll find me to be, as I diligently persist. Even though my clay alms bowl has within it barely a few morsels of food, collected from my alms round, I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, keep my meditation going while holding on to nothing. Having given up an exquisitely carved bowl made out of bronze, along with the one that was made out of gold, I found satisfaction in reaching for one that was molded out of clay. This itself was truly my second attainment. Once, however, although I lived in a heavily guarded palace, surrounded by sentries for my protection, where I could not freely leave my court or move about in my domain, without relying on personal guards for my safety and well-being. Yet, despite being constantly watched over and surrounded by my security detail, I lived a most dreadful life, a prisoner of my perpetual anxiety and nervousness. But now, even though all alone in my seclusion, wherever I find myself in the wilderness, I, Godha's son, Bhaddiya, am so fortunate indeed, having no fear whatsoever, and instead I live calm and unperturbed, subdued and absorbed in meditation, firmly established and rooted in living and behaving virtuously, having already cultivated both mindfulness and wisdom in me, where step by step I gradually attained extinction, by reaching the very end and the destruction of all the fetters. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Kāḷigodhāputta Bhaddiya. Theragāthā 20.8 Aṅgulimāla Thera. Verses of the Venerable Aṅgulimāla. Even though you're walking as you move away from me, recluse, yet you claim you've already stopped. Meanwhile, you declare that I haven't stopped at all. But I am the one who's come to a full stop, and is thus no longer running, as I can barely even catch my own breath. How exactly is this to be the case now, recluse? I want to know, what do you mean by these confusing words of yours, claiming that you have stopped running altogether, whereas I am still running, accusing me for not having stopped at all? Yes, Aṅgulimāla, I have absolutely stopped running, and for good, because I have forever abandoned violence against all beings. Meanwhile you, however, you live unrestrained, not hesitating to reach out and kill your fellow human being, which is why I declare that I'm the one who's stopped running altogether, whereas you are still running and haven't stopped at all. Ah, finally, I'm in the presence of a great being indeed. Truly, a genuine recluse is the one who stands before me, who's followed me into this deep, dark wood, and come all this way in order to save me. Therefore, by listening to your words of true Dhamma you just spoke, I am now throwing all my weapons aside, never to pick them up again, and the 1,000 evils they brought with them to all. In this way, and without a moment's hesitation, the criminal took off his weapons and armor he always wore, and down a jagged cliff he threw them all into an unreachable abyss. Then he rushed back and threw himself at the Blessed One's feet, and without missing a heartbeat, with genuine confidence expressed his fervent desire to join the order of monks, as he asked for the going forth. The Buddha, in his infinite compassion that knows no bounds, the teacher to all beings throughout existence entire, gently spoke these simple words, "Come, Bhikkhu," and that itself was my higher ordination. The one who lived recklessly, wasting his life so heedlessly, has now transformed himself to being diligent and heedful indeed, as he goes about into the world, spreading his light to one and all, wherever he may happen to be, much like the moon that's finally released from having been stuck behind the veil of thick, dark clouds. Whoever in the past has committed actions with an evil heart will have those evil deeds and their effects shut off by the replacing of them with their opposites, genuinely good actions that he now intentionally commits. And this itself will transform him indeed, making him brilliant in his sheen, just like the glorious moon, fully released from the thick grip of dark clouds. A bhikkhu who from a young age devotes his life to the Buddha's dispensation is the one who truly lights up the world, shining his bright glow wherever he may be, just like the glorious moon that's fully released from the thick grip of dark clouds. Oh, may even my enemies come to hear and learn the Dhamma as did I. May those who attack and punish me also gain access to it, and thus be moved enough to dedicate themselves wholly to the Buddha Sasana, just like me. May my enemies and all those who hate and despise me also come across and associate with genuinely good people, as did I, and thereby may they too establish themselves firmly in living according to the Dhamma. May all those who want to harm and kill me often be exposed to this beautiful Dhamma that heals, becoming thus inspired by the patiently forbearing behavior of those who live peacefully. And thus may they too be moved to act similarly, developing themselves in this Dhamma that heals consistently. For once they do, they too, just like me, will see and feel genuinely in their hearts how lovely it is to not wish to do any harm, whether unto me or anyone else ever again. In this way, they too will experience peace that's incomparable, as a result of not harming any beings, but instead to protect them one and all, be they weak and frail, or mighty and strong. Irrigators regulate and direct the flow of streams and rivers, whereas fletchers carefully straighten the arrow shaft. And while carpenters cut, carve, and join pieces of wood together, the wise, on the other hand, are heedfully engaged in the ongoing task of restraining and properly taming themselves. Now, there are those who restrain and tame another by means of sticks, hooks, and whips. But I became tamed when the Holy One came and saved me, without using a sword or even a piece of stick. One who doesn't harm, Ahinsaka is my name. Even though in the past I did bring harm to so many, but this name I now bear, that's returned to me, is indeed justly placed today, finally, for it's simply impossible for me to ever harm anyone again. The infamous serial killer Aṅgulimāla I used to be, the criminal collecting the fingers of his dead victims as trophies for a necklace, drowning in the mighty flood I was, with its waters pulling and dragging me away. It was right then when I found safety while taking refuge in the Buddha. The infamous serial killer Aṅgulimāla I used to be, whose hands were always drenched in the blood of all those I came across. Behold now the refuge I found, that pulled out the very roots for re-becoming that lay dormant for me. Many despicable were my evil deeds that would automatically lead one to the worst of hells as their natural consequence. So now, although I taste the fruits of those terrible deeds that come to touch me, as long as I'm still here in this body, yet I eat the food given to me each day blamelessly for as long as I live. So many are the fools who, although having the opportunity of life, go on squandering it carelessly, living with negligence. But it is the wise few who guard and protect themselves, dedicating themselves to staying vigilant, the precious treasure that protects them not only in this life, but also with what's waiting for them beyond death. So don't be careless, but stay constantly vigilant, instead of giving yourself to the delights that others seek in life, becoming slaves to lusting after sensual pleasures, for it is the heedful who, by being engaged in meditation, personally attains to the highest happiness the heart could ever experience. It was truly unexpected, desperately needed, and thus warmly welcomed, the life-giving instruction I received, the one true antidote that healed me from the poisonous teachings I'd earlier received from others, which is why I knew once I tasted it, this indeed was the true Dhamma I'd been looking for, the very best to which I arrived at last. It was truly unexpected, desperately needed, and thus warmly welcomed, the life-giving instruction I received, for it's because of it truly that I've now obtained the threefold higher knowledges, and thus completed the holy task by fulfilling the goal of the Buddha's dispensation. In the past, whether I was sitting at the foot of a tree in the wilderness, whether inside of caves somewhere, or on top of mountains, or dwelling at cliff tops, wherever I found myself to be, whether here or there, all I felt was my heart completely unsettled, never at peace, with a mind that was agitated too, perpetually. It's all different now, of course, for wherever I am, you'll find me at peace, living happily, dwelling contented, beyond the reach of Mara. Oh, how lovely indeed it was that the Master took pity on me by showing his sweet compassion to me in deciding to come and help me out of my misery. I was born in this life to Brahmin parents, each of whom were seen to be pure in their Brahmin pedigree. But it is only now that I can be declared to be a true Brahmin indeed, a genuine son of the Sugata himself, the king of the Dhamma, the matchless teacher throughout the cosmos. Now, craving with its constant thirst for more is fully eradicated and gone. So is the tendency to grab and hold. And with the 6 sense doors being firmly kept in check, I reside fully restrained and in control. by removing the very root of evil itself. Thus, I have attained to the destruction of all the contaminating asavas. I have served my teacher by fulfilling the goal of his instructions to me. And now, as I finally put down the heavy burden, the very roots for re-becoming are fully destroyed completely, once and for all. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Aṅgulimāla. Theragāthā 20.9 Anuruddha Thera. Verses of the Venerable Anuruddha. Leaving behind father and mother, sisters and brothers, friends and relatives, along with giving up entirely the pleasures of sensuality that had been my companions until then, contentedly Anuruddha now continues to sit, fully immersed, meditating. Surrounded by all kinds of merriment, joyful singing and dance to keep me entertained, where the gentle jingle of cymbals would greet my ears to wake me up from my slumber. But all that opulence couldn't give me even a second's worth of purity, for I was utterly blind, trapped in delight, in what was none other than Mara's exquisitely devised trap. However, all that was already left behind, and only the Buddha's dispensation is what delights the heart. Having now already crossed over each and every flood, contentedly Anuruddha continues to sit, fully immersed, meditating. Whatever delightful contacts they may happen to be, whether visible forms, sounds, tastes, smells, or touches that come knocking, having already crossed over each and every flood, contentedly Anuruddha continues to sit, fully immersed, meditating. On his way back from the alms round, with none accompanying him, silent and solitary with every pace he takes, Anuruddha, with no influxes contaminating his heart, looks for tossed away rags in the rubbish heap, so to patch up the old robes he wears. The sage, being considerate of every detail, on finding some rags he could use from the rubbish heap, picked them up, and after thoroughly washing and dyeing each, Anuruddha, with no influxes contaminating his heart, wore his mended robes newly patched. The disposition of the one with many wants is that he will remain perpetually dissatisfied no matter what, seeking companionship while never giving up his conceit, always measuring himself against others, with a wicked heart that's vile and corrupt indeed through and through. However, the one who lives mindfully with whatever he does and wherever he may be, living with fewness of wishes, contented and unperturbed, he dwells secluded from the noise and company of the crowd, yet remaining joyful inside, and not longing for the past, but always engaged in livening up himself with persevering effort and vigor no matter what. Thus, his disposition, along with his character traits, are all skillful in nature, where each gesture and behavior keep circling him back, again and again, to awakening, where his true home happens to be, which is why the great sage declares how such a person has indeed removed all the asavas from his heart. Being aware of what I was thinking, the Supreme Teacher in the universe came to me, manifesting right in front of me with his supernormal powers, the Master himself, who delights in the non-proliferation of thoughts, having forged a mind-made body psychically, was now standing in front of me. Thus, the teacher instructed me, his own disciple also, in the non-proliferation of thoughts. And having learned the Dhamma which he taught me, living and practicing as instructed, now I delight in having done my teacher's bidding, as I finally can now declare I've indeed attained the 3 higher knowledges myself, and with it I fulfilled my duty in the Lord's dispensation. During these last 55 years, I have never laid down my body to rest, while adopting for me the sitter's posture instead. Now, it's already been 25 years past since I've beat lethargy as well. No more was there any breathing taking place, whether coming in or going out. For the one with unwavering heart, the unshakable one himself, with utter dedication to tranquility and peace, the graceful sage with unimpeded vision came to his end, while bearing up and staying untouched by mortal feelings of any kind. Thus it was that his heart, having attained to liberation, entered the Nibbana element, and was thus quenched, just like the flame of an oil lamp that's now gone out. Then, all that was left of the Master were those aspects of his form that we could still cognize, be it through touch or with any of the other 4, with none from the name group that was his still remaining, for the perfectly self-awakened Buddha has now attained to full extinction. So know this, O Jalini, there are no divine realms left for me to be reborn into ever again, whether the one you reappeared into, or the many others that are far superior than the one that's yours. My sojourning through the endless cycles of samsara is now totally destroyed, and with it all future lives as well. The one who within a single instant can know the history of entire galaxies, along with the minds of the very Brahma lords that governed them, is none other than this Bhikkhu whom you see, who with the supernormal psychic powers he possesses knows where all those gods and Brahmas will pass away and reappear into once they too die and vanish from their realms divine. Formerly I was known as Annabharara, born into the untouchable pauper class, earning my daily meal by feeding cattle. Then, one day, I saw the famed recluse Uparitta, and presented him with my humble offering of food. As a result of that wholesome deed, I was born into the royal Sakyan clan, where I was now given the name Anuruddha. There I grew up while surrounded by all kinds of merriment, joyful singing and dance to keep me entertained, where every morning the gentle jingle of cymbals would greet my ears to wake me up from my slumber. Then I met the perfectly self-awakened Buddha in the flesh, the master teacher, unshakably fearless in his every attribute. Suddenly, my heart was full of trust in him, and possessing an unprecedented level of faith and confidence, I went forth, leaving behind home life as I walked into homelessness, without ever looking back. Now, I know without a shadow of a doubt my past lives and the places where each of them was spent fully. I was Sakka himself, the ruler of gods in the heavenly realm of Tavatimsa, presiding over the devas of the 33. For 7 lifetimes I was born as a human being, ruling over the multitudes in my domain as their sovereign king. Thus, my kingdom extended to the ends of Jambudvipa's 4 quarters, where I ruled without the use of a sword or a stick, governing my entire domain by the rule of the Dhamma and nothing else. Thus, spending 7 lives here and 7 more there, knowing these as clearly as they were experienced, totaling 14 rounds in samsara, after which again I reappeared in the heavenly realms of the devas, where I remained. Now, fully composed in serenity, I attained to samadhi with its 5 factors so easily, settling internally in perfect peace and utter tranquility, with the divine eye now fully pure and refined to perfection. Balanced by the jhanic 5 factors, whether in their births or deaths, I know and see directly the many destinations and states of beings as they roam here and there in their samsaric life cycles. I have served my teacher by fulfilling the goal of his instructions to me, and now, as I finally put down the heavy burden, the very roots for re-becoming are fully destroyed completely, once and for all. It will be in the land of the Vajji princes, at the Veluva monastery, where I will breathe my last, and life comes to its final end, sitting in peaceful tranquility among the grove of bamboo trees surrounding me, as yet another liberated heart that's fully released from the asavas becomes extinguished at last. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Anuruddha. Theragāthā 20.10 Pārāpariya Thera. Verses of the Venerable Pārāpariya, his 3rd. The following thought appeared in the mind of the recluse, seated alone in the woods, while surrounded by the blossoming flowers, meditating in his serene solitude. The conduct of bhikkhus is surely different these days from what it used to be, when the best specimen of the entire existence, the Buddha, was still alive, as he walked among us here on this earth. Back then, the robes were worn to cover the body from the elements, be it from the wind or the cold or heat too, not to mention to hide one's private parts, and not as a sign of status or luxury. The food they ate was done moderately as well, where bhikkhus were satisfied with whatever offerings they received, appreciative and even enjoying whatever that came their way. Whether the food received was refined and exquisite, or dull and tasteless, whether in large quantities or meager in portions, they all partook of it, to sustain this body to do its work, simply to keep this life going, without a single thought of gluttony or greed invading their hearts. The bhikkhus back then weren't so interested in the quality of their requisites of life, from the food they ate to the medicine they would need. This because their sole aim was to get rid of the poisons in the heart. They were adamant in driving out and thus end the asavas dominating their hearts. And as such, they would resort to the seclusion of desolate places, like sitting by the roots of a shady tree in an uninhabited wilderness, or meditating in mountain caves, or within rocky crevasses in deep valleys, dedicating themselves wholeheartedly to purifying their hearts by cultivating themselves. Thus, they were indeed frugal and content with the little they received, soft-spoken and unpolluted in their mannerisms, neither arrogant nor pompous at all, but gracious, malleable, and open to advice, ready to listen, learn, and improve in their ways, with their intention always being fixed on attaining the goal of the holy life supreme, which is why they always exuded noble respect in their demeanor, whether in the way they walked, ate their meals, or even when they spoke, to the extent that all their movements and gestures flowed beautifully into each other, just like the seamless stream of purified oil when it's being poured. Thus, their attitude inspired unmistakably a cool and soothing confidence in us and in all those who came to witness them. With their hearts being free of all the contaminating asavas, these great meditation masters, having liberated themselves and attained to extinction, truly were the very best of companions in the holy life, and the sources of mighty support. Much difficult it is to find such excellent friends these days, for they indeed are so few. With the vanishing of such skillful qualities from our midst, and with the loss of such wise companionships, along with the vanishing of their superlative qualities and precious wisdom, the great conqueror's beautiful teaching, with its living qualities he ceaselessly taught, has now fallen apart and is in a frenzied mess. Now, the age of all those who are evil is here, those who know nothing other than living with corrupted hearts dominated by defilements. And whatever remains of the genuine Dhamma the Master has bequeathed is to be found residing within the hearts of the very few who've come to see the undeniable value of seclusion as they detach from society. Meanwhile, the kilesas keep defiling one's mind, proliferating and spreading throughout one's life and the entire society, which has turned this whole place into a madhouse, idiots following their imagination and their uncontrolled foolish whims, and all that their undeveloped characters could conjure, much like the insane who've relinquished their reason. They wage war against their own selves, having turned themselves into rag dolls, tossed and thrashed about at the hands of merciless demons, who now control and dominate them while inhabiting their minds. By abandoning the real Dhamma, they quarrel and fight while continuously arguing with each other. Meanwhile, each follows their own set of wrong views, as they adhere and cling to cherished opinions, which they conclude as, "This is indeed much better. This truly is the best." Now these are the same people who've given up their home life, their wealth, children and wife too, by deciding to go forth. But for what purpose did they do so, really? For they only ended up doing things that are inappropriate at best, engaging in behavior they're not supposed to, and all that for the sake of receiving a few spoonsful of daily alms food. Seriously? In fact, these characters called monks keep gorging as they made eating as their most favorite pastime, with bellies that keep growing until they're about to burst. Then, lying down on their backs to rest, sleeping off their exhaustion from eating, of course. And hours later, when they wake up, they go on chatting, discussing frivolously with each other on unsuitable matters, subjects that the teacher himself criticized and shunned as being blamable. The bhikkhus these days gain respect and honor for their handiwork, gaining distinction and recognition for building things and the learning of crafts, not for their development in the training, nor for conquering and restraining themselves, for they are oblivious of the fact that attaining to that inner peace is the very purpose of being a recluse. When householders come to them with gifts of clay, oil, or soap powder for their bath, along with providing them with lodgings and all kinds of foods and drinks too, inflamed by greed and total inconsideration for lay supporters, these bhikkhus smugly expect such donations made to them, but while also making these as their new standards for receiving future gifts. And as such, they look down upon all offerings that are less in value than these. Same with the wood apple chutney, or the fragrant flowers they love to receive, next to the sumptuously delicious food they rush to obtain on their daily alms, along with the sweet mangoes and juicy plums as their tasty dessert afterwards, not to mention the fancy toothsticks they prefer, with which to floss and brush their teeth once done with their meals. They're so sure of themselves and their expertise, strong remnants from when they were still in lay life, so much so that, although now being in monastic robes, they engage in administering medicine as if they're medical doctors themselves, or give financial advice like investing in making more money as if they are businessmen, or rush to offer their services by giving their opinion on governing and ruling a country, thinking of themselves as if they were actual rulers or kings. They even give advice on how to beautify and make the face and body more attractive, as though they were prostitutes themselves. sneaky charlatans. That's what these fraudsters are, and not much else, the whole lot of them. Mere opportunistic cheats and fake wearers of the noble robes of the Bhikkhu, manipulating and scheming with their many sly tricks to abuse the kindness and sympathy of lay supporters and the faithful, while they themselves run after and indulge in worldly pleasures. In their ravenous pursuit to obtain wealth and properties and things to possess, they spend their time engineering and planning various tactics, much like conniving politicians or crooks in their fraudulent business dealings, all for the sake of securing for themselves more resources, gaining plenty of influence over others with their cunning ways as their livelihood. They assemble the Sangha to conduct meetings, but not to settle or to try and address issues of the Sangha itself, nor for the sake of discussing the Dhamma, nor in order to ensure its preservation through maintaining its practice, nor to propagate the Dhamma in any way, but they come together simply to discuss matters of the world without any sense of shame, all while pursuing their insatiable desire for more, by trying to find ways to better entice the laity, to gain from them even more of the worldly pleasures they crave, instead of being solely concerned with the pursuit of the goal of the holy life. These people should be kicked out of the Sangha, instead live and thrive as the majority within its midst, while quarreling and disputing over things of value when offered to the Sangha. Not having a smidgen of decency in them, they fail to consider that the reason why they even exist is due to the generosity and faith of all those who selflessly share the little that they possess. Despite appearances like the shaven head or the robes, these characters, living on the dime of others, never dedicate themselves to practicing in seclusion, but instead are driven passionately to seek out ways to be revered by the masses, along with the obtaining of honor and fame in any way they can, while also being given, of course, the luxuries of wealth and property. So, in the middle of all this chaos, it's no wonder that now it's not so easy anymore to maintain the peaceful serenity that one has achieved, let alone to attain what one has not yet attained, or to realize what is yet to be realized. So, much like walking barefoot onto a forest floor that's blanketed with unwelcoming sharp thorns everywhere one may step, in the same manner, the sage today must tread mindfully and with much care and attention while walking into and out of any village. Nevertheless, one must not worry nor fret over this, for despite these corrupting elements of the day, we can still recall and bring to mind the sages of old, the ones who made it through and beyond the flood, by remembering their noble behavior in the way they lived and practiced, and becoming thus inspired by the Dhamma they lived and practiced. It's certainly possible to realize and touch the deathless indeed, even in these last hours before the light of the Dhamma goes out and disappears. After all, this is what the great recluse, the noble Brahmin, with all his senses intact and fully aware, while lying there on his side between the Sela trees, himself declared, right before he entered full extinction, as he put the final end to all future re-becomings once and for all. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Pārāpariya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.